President Xi Jinping calls for inclusive globalization as APEC informal leaders meeting opens in South Korea. The city's advanced GDP estimate grows by 3.8% in the third quarter. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The meeting of leaders of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit kicked off in the South Korean city of Gyeongju today. In a speech, President Xi Jinping spoke about a 5-point proposal for inclusive globalization. He prompted multilateralism and enhanced cooperation amid global shifts, as well as the building of a regional community with a shared future. Danny Zhou has the story.
The main stage for discussions for the 21-member APEC meeting was the Gyeongju Hwabaek International Convention Center. President of host nation South Korea, Lee Jae-myung, welcomed leaders converging at the venue, including Chief Executive John Lee. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stood in for the absent President Donald Trump, who departed the country the day earlier.
중국 국가주석입니다.
Chinese leader Xi Jinping was accompanied by the South Korean president as he walked in. Xi met John Lee and the two spoke before chatting with Mexico's economy minister. Xi later shook hands with Vietnamese leader Leon Kyong and Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. The seats were arranged in alphabetical order. John Lee was sitting next to Xi. During an address at the meeting, President Xi pointed to changes on the scene in a century and said the Asia-Pacific faces growing uncertainties and destabilizing factors. The rougher the seas, the more we must pull together, Xi said, as he called for sharing opportunities and achieving win-win cooperation. He outlined a 5-point suggestion for promoting a universally beneficial and inclusive economic globalization. He called on joint efforts to safeguard the multilateral trading system with the WTO at its core, update rules to reflect the changing times, and better protect the interests of developing countries. He said it's imperative to build an open economic environment promoting investment liberalization and fiscal cooperation, which he says would inject impetus to the region's free trade area. He further called on APEC members to stabilize industrial and supply chains while advancing the digital and green transformation of trade. Meanwhile, Xi noted China has been shortening its negative lists for foreign investment and applying unilateral visa-free schemes to more countries. He said the adopted recommendations for the 15th five-year plan lay solid foundations for comprehensive deepening of reform. Xi pledged Chinese modernization would usher in fresh opportunities for the Asia-Pacific and beyond. The meeting lasted about 2 hours on the first day of the gathering. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
At the APEC event, President Xi Jinping met with newly elected Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. The bilateral talks between President Xi Jinping and Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi in Gyeongju marked the first official meeting between the two leaders after Takaichi took office as Japan's first ever female leader. Xi cited Takaichi as saying China is an important neighbor of Japan and it is key to build a constructive and stable dialogue to promote mutually beneficial strategic relations. That, Xi says, reflects how Takaichi and her new cabinet care about Sino-Japanese ties. Xi said China is willing to maintain communication with Japan to develop Sino-Japan relations along the right track. Japanese media report that the pair met for about 30 minutes, and Takaichi says that Japan and China shoulder important responsibilities for the peace and prosperity of the region and the international community. She notes there are various concerns between China and Japan, but she hopes to address some of these issues while expressing a willingness to engage in frank dialogue with Xi to deepen relations. Apart from Takaichi, the Chinese leader also held talks with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, which could help ease tensions between Beijing and Ottawa. She also met the Prime Minister of Thailand, Anutin Chanvirakul. Thai media reported that the Thai PM talked about rice procurement-related issues. During the APEC Economic Leaders meeting, Chief Executive John Lee met with Singapore's Prime Minister Lawrence Wong and other state leaders. Samantha Lee has more.
Yes, Prime Minister, so glad to meet you again. During the APEC economic leaders meeting in Gwangju in South Korea, Chief Executive John Lee met with Singapore's Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. They touched on bilateral cooperation in areas such as finance and trade, as well as people-to-people exchange.
Ties between the two places have grown even stronger. The trade figures have gone very well, and Singapore remains the fourth largest trading partner of Hong Kong. It's either fourth or fifth, and it has been growing in numbers. And the people-to-people ties are very strong as well.
Our two cities share a long-standing relationship, deep bonds of friendship between our peoples, our business community, and also at the official level.
Lee expressed gratitude to Singapore for its support in Hong Kong's bid to join the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP. He also said Hong Kong welcomes Singaporean companies with open arms, especially on partnerships in the IT industry. Lee also spoke with the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Khaled bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. Lee noted that the UAE is Hong Kong's major trading partner in the Middle East.
I visited UAE in 2023. I'm very glad to see that we have very good developments in different aspects. Trade has been growing very positively, and an annual growth rate of 14%, reaching last year $16 billion. It's very good.
Lee hopes the UAE could continue to support Hong Kong in building ties with other Middle Eastern countries, such as Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
Following the Busan meeting between President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump yesterday, People's Daily published an article saying that the two leaders have maintained long-term engagement and mutual respect, which have become key assets in Sino-US relations.
But he's a very tough negotiator.
The nearly two-hour meeting offering some year-long reprieve in the bruising trade spats with promises to step up cooperation in economic, trade, and energy fields. In its wake, state media People's Daily published an article saying that President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump have maintained long-term exchanges and mutual respect, which have become the most valuable strategic assets of Sino-US relations. The state media notes that it is through direct, high-level communication that both sides can transcend specific differences and frictions, reaching consensus from a strategic and holistic perspective, therefore preventing misjudgments. The article compares charting the path of Sino-US relations to steering a ship, which has to be kept on course while balancing broader concerns, navigating strategic priorities, and ensuring steady progress. It notes that while frictions are normal given the two nations' distinct conditions, the key is to properly understand and manage their differences with mutual respect and win-win cooperation. As two major powers wielding global clout, China and the U.S. bear special responsibilities. Positive interaction between the two on regional and world stages is essential to addressing increasingly complex global challenges. They encompass combating illegal immigration, telecom fraud, anti-money laundering, AI, and infectious diseases. The article reiterates how the two countries can be partners and friends, and China wishes to work together with the U.S. to implement the consensus reached at the meeting to benefit the people of two countries and the world. Official advance estimates from the government showed the city's economy grew 3.8% year-on-year in the third quarter. That's compared with a GDP growth of 3.1% in the second quarter. A government spokesperson said the Hong Kong economy's robust performance was driven by a continued surge in exports and sustained expansion in domestic demand. Meanwhile, Hong Kong's retail sales increased by 4.8% from a year earlier, compared with a revised 3.5% in August. Rosewood Hong Kong has been named the world's #1 hotel this year. That's unveiled in the third edition of the world's 50 best hotels list, which features hotels from 22 destinations. Opened in 2019 with 413 rooms, Rosewood Hong Kong takes the top spot after rising 2 places from last year. The accolade comes just a few weeks after Hong Kong's bar Leone was crowned the world's best bar. And still ahead, China's Shenzhou 21 manned spacecraft is scheduled for liftoff near midnight tonight. Britain's King Charles has stripped his brother Andrew of his title of prince. And a preview of Halloween night in the city. Welcome back. China's Shenzhou 21 manned spacecraft is scheduled to lift off tonight at 11:44 p.m. at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in northwest China. The mission also marks the first time that rodents or mammalian samples are sent to China's space station for science experiments. The Shenzhou 21 crew consists of astronaut and Commander-in-Chief Zhang Lu, flight engineer Wu Fei, and payload specialist Zhang Hongzhang. 32-year-old Wu Fei is marking the youngest astronaut in China's space missions. Also heading to space are 4 handpicked mice. They were chosen from 300 candidate rodents, which underwent multiple rounds of elimination and fitness tests over 2 months. Only those who stayed on the longest and did not fall on custom-made running wheels could move on to the next round. They were then tested for motion sickness resistance, being placed in rotating containers at high speed before being taken to tread the balancing beams. Researchers also designed a maze for the mice to test their memory and intelligence, ensuring they can accurately find food in a space environment. The 4 chosen mice will be placed in special containers, being observed by astronauts and ground scientists over their behavior in space amid microgravity with confined spaces. Following a 5 to 7 day orbital stay, the mice will return to Earth aboard the Shenzhou 20 spacecraft for further scientific studies. The ASEAN Defense Ministers meeting kicked off in Kuala Lumpur today with U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stealing much of the spotlight as he engaged in high-profile meetings on the sidelines. Nasi Karim with more.
The region's defense ministers portrayed a sense of unity at the opening of their meeting in Kuala Lumpur today. But the focus went beyond the 11 countries that make up the bloc. Instead, the spotlight shone on high-profile guests from the United States, China, India, Japan and others who see Southeast Asia as crucial to their respective national interests. China's Defense Minister Dong Jun joined his ASEAN counterparts at a lunch meeting today. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said he spoke with Dong today and told him the U.S. would stoutly defend its interests and maintain the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific. This as Hegseth signed a 10-year defense framework with Rajnath Singh, Defense Secretary of China's regional rival India.
We have a major defense partnership that is ongoing and made even more powerful by this agreement. So, sir, thank you.
Crucially, Hegseth also met with the Philippines Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro, whose country has had skirmishes with Chinese vessels in the nearby Huangyan Dao or Scarborough Shoal and other reefs claimed by both Beijing and Manila. Hegseth announced a task force Philippines aimed at response and deterrence to military threats in the region.
And we don't seek confrontation, but of course we're ready to protect our interests, individually and mutually.
Dong said he told Hegseth that the U.S. should oppose Taiwan independence, adding that China possesses the full capability to calmly respond to any infringements or provocations. He said China and the U.S. should enhance communication between their defense departments and increase high-level military interaction. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
Britain's King Charles has stripped his younger brother Andrew of his title of Prince and forced him out of his Windsor home. Prince Andrew is now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Daniel Rao reports.
65-year-old Andrew, the younger brother of Britain's King Charles and second son of the late Queen Elizabeth, has come under mounting pressure in recent years as a result of his alleged links to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Earlier this month, he was forced to stop using his title of Duke of York. Charles has now stripped him of all his titles, leaving him to be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Buckingham Palace said a formal notice had now been served on Andrew to surrender the lease of his Royal Lodge mansion on the Windsor estate west of London. He will move to alternative private accommodation on the Sandringham estate in eastern England. The decision by the King marks one of the most dramatic moves against a member of the royal family in modern British history. Andrew was once regarded as a dashing naval officer and served in the military during the Falklands War with Argentina in the early 1980s. However, he was forced to step down from a UK trade ambassador role in 2011 before quitting all royal duties in 2019, and then was stripped of his military links and royal patronages in 2022 amid allegations of sexual misconduct that he has always denied. That year, he settled a lawsuit brought by Virginia Giuffre, who died in April, which accused him of sexually abusing her when she was a teenager. Andrew has always denied her account, which has recently returned to prominence with the release of her memoir. While attending the APEC meeting in South Korea, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was asked to comment on whether King Charles made the right decision.
But I think His Majesty King Charles can make decisions without the benefit of my advice, I think is probably the correct answer to that. And they work through those things. We respect decisions that are made by the royal family.
This is the strongest action against a member of the royal family that I know of. And I think that the King is acting very much here in harmony with public opinion, media opinion and parliamentary opinion.
A palace source said while Andrew continued to deny the accusations against him, it was clear there had been serious lapses of judgment. The source said the decision was taken by Charles, but the monarch had the support of the wider royal family. Daniel, TV News.
Back locally, several incumbent lawmakers are seeking re-election at the upcoming Legislative Council polls. Multiple electoral hopefuls are first-time contenders. Among the new faces jostling for a seat at the Kowloon West geographical constituency is Sham Shui Po District Councillor and ophthalmologist Jeffrey Pong. He's set to run against incumbent Scott Leung and Yau Chi Mang District Councillor Kwan Wai Hei. Those seeking re-election in the functional constituencies include current chairman of Legical's Finance Committee Ronald Chan and Sunny Tan from the textile and garment industry. Tan will face off with Ray Siu, Secretary General of the Hong Kong General Chamber of Textiles. Southern District Councillor Howard Chow, after a failed bid last term, will vie for the real estate and construction constituency again. Joining the race for the first time, robotic scientist and entrepreneur Mark Mack brought along his invention, hoping to challenge tech and innovation sector's incumbent lawmaker, Duncan Chu. Excitement is in the air as Hong Kong braces for Halloween festivities. Police have stepped up manpower in the city's nightlife hotspots this afternoon and call on citizens to follow officers' instructions on site. Authorities said they will make proper arrangements depending on the flow of the crowd. Nanny Cho reports.
As dusk fell, numerous costume revelers began filling the streets in the popular entertainment district of Lang Kwei Fong to ring in the spooky season. Be careful, the devil might be around the corner. Some of those who were here for a thrill out said they were having a lot of fun taking photos and enjoying the festive atmosphere. And some newcomers said they would head to the bar afterwards. Dressing up with cute outfits is a pretty good option if you want to steal the show. And this family made a great pumpkin fashion choice. Mr. Liu said his wife came up with the idea for Halloween celebrations, but he picked the Spider-Man costume instead so as to protect the pumpkins. This pop-up stairs, which was fully booked last week, is ready to serve an extra amount of drinks. The manager said the pub will be open until Saturday morning so that everyone can have a blast. The Lang Kwei Fong Association has expressed confidence in luring more visitors as they notice many mainlanders have interest in the festival. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.